Okay, so today what we're going to be looking at is Adobe Premiere Pro. Be careful not to download Rush, we need Pro. You will need this on your computer today in order to do the assignment that we're looking to do. Most of what we're going to look at today is very rudimentary. We're going to look at the basic setup and how Premiere looks so that you've got an understanding of what it looks like before tomorrow where we start tinkering with actual things. So in this lesson you're going to need to download Premiere Pro. You should already have that on your computer. And we're going to start messing with the workspaces a little bit. So I'm going to shrink this down and I'm going to go to Premiere. So down here at the bottom I've got my Premiere Pro. I'll click on that and I'll launch it. Sometimes you may get issues like this pop up. Continue with known issue is where you would go. Now Adobe Premiere Pro at its heart is a video editing software. There's a lot that can be done in Adobe Premiere Pro that you wouldn't necessarily think could be done in standard video editing. We can do a lot of effects, we can do a lot of simple things, we can do a lot of extravagant things, but it's not the only video editing software. So there are other things you can do with other softwares, but this is the one we're going to play with throughout this class. If we get some time towards the back end, we may tinker with Adobe After Effects a little bit, but both of these are huge programs. So because they're so large, it makes it kind of hard to put onto your computers at home. Now, I want you to have Adobe Premiere Pro open. And this should be the first thing you get. It should say New Project, Open Project over here. It's got some options for team projects, which I haven't played with before, but I think we might do a little bit of this year. And if you had any recent projects open, it'll come up right here. So after you create this project, you should be able to click right here and be able to work with it, which is nice. So we're going to start by clicking on New Project. Now throughout this week, we're going to be working on a single project. It's a basic little slideshow of pictures. It's not complicated. We're going to use what's called the Ken Burns effect, where these pictures kind of fade up, fade down, kind of dissipate off. It's a common effect that you've seen 100 times. Now up here where it says name at the top, I want you to call this your name. So I'm going to put D trip dash still. So these are going to be my still shots. Now Premiere Pro does not work like Photoshop and Illustrator. If you think you understand Premiere Pro based on your previous Adobe experience, you're going to be wrong, okay? Those of you that took Adobe Digital Design might recognize some of the things I'm about to talk about, but really at the heart of this we need a root folder. I need a folder on your desktop that's going to hold all of your files for that project. So every project we start, the first thing you're really going to do after creating this is create a folder that all that media is going to go into. If things start disappearing, it's going to come up and it's going to say media offline, and that's a big mess for you, especially right here at the beginning. So making these folder systems right is key. So where it says location, I'm going to click on browse there, and it probably has these audio previews and auto saves. Premiere does automatically save your stuff after a little bit, but don't depend on that. So I'm going to go to my D drive here. If you've got, that's a great picture. If you don't, you can go to your desktop if you'd prefer to go there, or you can go to downloads or documents or wherever you really want to keep your folders. I'm going to keep mine, we'll say on the desktop for now, okay? I don't have a folder here. If you're on a Mac, there'll be an option that should say create new folder right here. I'm on a PC here, so I'm going to right click, go to new folder, and I'm going to call this still shots. Okay, so still shots, that's the folder I need to have selected. So when I click on still shots, I'll hit select folder, and if you look carefully right here at location, it'll tell you that it's under your desktop under a folder called still shots. That means all of your stuff is going to save to that folder. Everything that we do for this project is going to go into that folder first. Now the rest of this stuff is generally set how we want it. You can see it's got a renderer for the Mercury. You probably have something different. If it doesn't say CUDA, that's fine. Display format, we want to leave that as time code. Don't mess with that. Display formats, audio samples, keep that the same. Capture format, it's in high definition here. We could go to standard definition if we wanted to make the file size a little smaller. It's just pictures, I'm not too worried about it. Now, once we have this, the other important thing is right here where it says general, next to it, it's got scratch disks. Click on that. Now, in your scratch disks, it's going to say capture video, audio, previews, etc. All this extra stuff, okay? Adobe Premiere Pro has to link all its media from the folder to the project. It can't exist by itself. It has to have the folder. It has to link to the project. So what we want to do is we want to leave everything here as same as project. If it's not set to same as project, set it to same as project. That means any auto saves, any extra previews, anything you create in this will go to that still shots folder. And right here at the end of each path, you should see still shots. Okay. So if you've got your general and your scratch disk set, if the top says your name dash still, if everywhere it says location or path, it ends in still shots, you're good to hit OK. And this is going to create your project. Now, first glances at Adobe Premiere are intimidating. This looks like a lot. I agree. This is not Photoshop where you have one canvas and you're working on one thing at a time. This is for my scatterbrain kids, my kids that think about 10 things at once. You can do multiple things at once through this program. So that's what we're going to start looking at. Now, before we really get going here, we need to stop and just look at what Premiere is, okay? I want you to look at these tabs that they have on each one of these. I want you to kind of lock into your head a little bit where some of these are, okay? There are 4 main panels that you're going to be utilizing steadily throughout this entire thing. There are others, but there are 4 main ones. The biggest one is right here in the bottom right. This is called your timeline. And anytime you're dealing with video, you're dealing with a sequence of events, right? What happens at this time? What happens at this time? What happens at this time? Your timeline is going to be where you establish all that. Your program monitor, which is your top right, is what your timeline is doing. So anything that's happening in your timeline, you will see directly in your program monitor. On the left, you have the project name. This is where you would have all your media. So all the stuff that's in your folder will be right here showing up and linking to that folder. The last is the top left, which is your source clip. This is where you're going to make your edits and changes to a clip in order to drag it to the timeline so that it shows up in the program monitor. Complicated, I know. It's not that bad, I promise you. But real quick, we want to look at what we can do with this actual setup. Oh, I missed your tools right here too. Those are your tools. Now, the cool thing about Premiere is it's completely customizable, like in a crazy way. I can grab these panels and drag them anywhere I want them to be. Okay? So let's say, for example, I don't like source and program being separated. I can grab program and stick it right here with source so that it's all one panel. I can grab program and I can stick it right here so that it shows up underneath. I can put this absolutely anywhere that I want it to be. Notice all these little bouncing green options, all these bouncing blue options. It's not going to matter right now. So what I want you to do is I want you to experiment with this. I want you to drag some of these around and look at what it creates and how it can kind of give that look. If you want your source monitor small and your program monitor big, you can do that. This is a very customizable workspace, okay? So tinker with that for just a moment. Move everything around. You're not going to like it for the time being. It's perfectly fine, okay? We'll be able to come back and fix this in just a minute. So move some stuff around. Alright, so once you've done that, I want you to look at the top of your screen here where it says Learning, Assembly, Editing, Color, etc. There's a little sandwich icon beside whichever one's lit up blue. It probably should be Editing. If you click on that, you can hit Reset to Saved Layout, and bam, we're right back where we were. Okay? So you can mess up your workspace as much as you want, as long as you know to come right here and reset it if you need it. You can also save your workspaces. So if you like your workspace, you can save it. Alright, so let's click on these a little bit. These are exactly the order that you need to go in when you're working on a project. Okay? It starts with learning. And then on the left hand side they have all these tutorials for skills, basics, all kinds of new stuff that you can learn on your own. So let's say you're having an issue with something specific and I haven't covered it yet, or I'm not going to cover it. Then you can go right here and you can kind of find your own answers sometimes. That Learn workspace is great for having project files of its own, simple to follow tutorials or step-by-step guides. It's a good place to look for your basic stuffs. Okay? Click on Assembly up here. Now assembly is the very first thing you're going to do in video. You're going to assemble your clips into a timeline. So it's got this huge project panel with all of your files to be able to set up your timeline properly. Editing allows you to cut up clips fairly easy, to move things around to make things work a little better in your timeline. Color grading is key in these programs. You really want to work with your color. Nobody wants to see a video that is just like it came out of the camera. Adding a little bit of color goes a long way to making your videos look professional. Next you have effects, and there are a laundry list of effects that are set up inside of Premiere. We're going to experiment with a lot of them, but really that's going to come down to you tinkering and learning. The audio panel, so you can work with your sound. Remember, video design is not really just video. The hardest part of video design is editing and working with the audio that comes with it. So you have to make sure that your audio is just as good as your video. Otherwise, it's going to cripple your whole... You could have the coolest looking music video in history. If the sound sounds goofy, there's going to be a real problem. Last is your graphics panel. Now in this you can add some simple basic graphics. Remember, this is not Photoshop, so you're not going to be able to edit in a Photoshop-like way on this program. But there are some basic things that we can do as far as adding graphics. Last is libraries. If you're saving things to your Creative Cloud, so I'm going to go up here, I'm just going to hit Save As real quick. If I go to my Creative Cloud files and save this project here, it'll help show it in the libraries. The problem is you won't be able to connect your media, your still shots folder, to that project, so that creates a real problem. If you are working on a school computer, a Mac laptop at home, or if you're working on any kind of computer at home and you have the ability to bring that to class, if you're one of my face-to-face students, I recommend bringing that computer, because moving files computer to computer in Premiere can be tough. So it's easier just to have everything in one place. Okay? Alright, so let's go back to editing. Click on that editing option at the top. Now I want to save this project into the correct place. So I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to hit File, Save As. Alright, now you may notice, at least I do already, that I have a Premiere Pro file already saved into my Still Shots folder. That could be one of two things. When I made it, it automatically put this right here, or when I set it up, it decided to save and auto-save. Either way is perfectly fine. But there is a file set here already. This Save As type is Adobe Premiere Project. Every file is going to end in .prog, that's Premiere Project. So when I hit Save here, it's going to ask me if I'm sure I want to replace the existing document. I do, so I'm going to hit Yes, and it's going to save that project. Now, you can exit out of Premiere by just hitting that little X at the top. You can open it back up by clicking back on it, and I'm going to continue with this known issue. And then when I open it back up, I should see that autosave, or that last file made, called my name-still. I can click on that and it'll open without any real problems. So this is the basic look for Premiere, and I know it looks scary, but just keep your head on. I'm going to show you some simple things that'll make this a lot easier for you. Alright, so what I want to see today, what I want you to turn in today, is I want you to, one more time, I know we've done it, I want you to drag these files, these panels, all over the place. I want you to make your own little sequence for how this is going to be set up, okay? It should look goofy, it should be all over the place. I don't really care what it looks like, to be honest with you. I just want to see that you know how to move these panels, okay? Once you get to this point and everything's all mixed and matched and crazy looking, I want you to take a screenshot. Now this is different for most computers out there. Most computers take screenshots in different ways. If you're on a Mac from the school, Shift Option 3, I believe, is the shortcut to take it. It may be 4, Shift Option 3 or 4, to take your screenshot. I need to see your entire screen, okay? As we move forward, I'm not going to be able to grade things that are taken in weird ways. So if you're over here with your cell phone, you know, taking a picture of your screen, that's not going to work for me. You're going to have to learn how to take that screenshot. If you're on a PC, a lot of PCs take screenshots by clicking Alt, print page, or F4, or there's different ways. So you're going to have to find out how to take a screenshot on your computer. Once you take that screenshot with this messed up looking workspace, I want you to turn that into today's assignment. When you're done turning that assignment in, make sure to reset to saved layout. Okay? This is where you need to be for real. But take that picture, turn that into today's assignment, and then follow along into the next one. Y'all have a good day.